utilize what their composition is supposed to do.
We'll have to wait no longer as we are jumping into picks and bans, ladies and gentlemen, for game 1 of our first series of the day. LNG on the blue side, TT on the red. So TT will have that counter pick priority. And LNG, they're banning away a hell of a lot of those AP junglers, as well as the Zoe off of TT. And you see the Olaf, the Tristana, and the Pantheon. So talked about how Tarzan loves those early game junglers. 2 of them taken off the board from him.
I imagine it'll be the Graves first pick here. I mean, you pretty much got rid of every single counter for the Graves. The Nidalee, Lilia, the Olaf, Pantheon even as well. Like, there is the opportunity if they wanted to go towards the Taliyah, but either way, you're definitely looking at a first pick jungler here to make sure that Tarzan is comfortable. Now, I like the Taliyah here because it does play into a game what we talked about with Tarzan is he's not really interested in sitting around and farming up to the late gauge to be in a carry, say like the likes of Kanavi and that kind of end of things. He just wants to go and play towards his lanes. So now you look towards LNG in your next rotation, something like Renekton's, Leona's, Alistar's, these kind of picks that solidify lanes that this Taliyah can play around, and you're in great shape.
Well, it looks like the Taliyah is going to be the lock-in there for LNG. So like you said, still having that early game presence. Could combo it with something like the Renekton, the Lucian as well as something we have seen in the past. We're going to see Bless picking up the Graves and Captain going onto that Twisted Fate. Now, we're kind of in two minds about Twisted Fate. It's almost similar to Victor. We've seen people pick Twisted Fate because he's quote-unquote seen as a power pick. They don't really do much with him, though, and I want to see Captain utilize those early destinies, create unfair advantages for himself, and making sure that his team is on top. So I'm curious to see how that one will go. But for LNG, they pretty much have the pick of the litter here. They can go for whatever the hell they want, and honestly, getting your bot lane locked and secured right now is totally fine.
Yeah, and we already talked about it, you know, Leona synergizing well with Taliyah, you get a very strong bot lane, and I agree with your points on TT side here, is that you actually need to unlock Captain from this mid lane if you want to make this pick work. And at least with the Graves, it gives you the opportunity to try and play in towards the enemy jungle, try and make a little bit of a mess here for the Taliyah if you're able to get on top of her, but that's not an easy task here as the Graves. You are in an unfavorable matchup because of the range and also the AP damage that this Taliyah has, so I want to see how they're able to make this work. However, looks like we're going to be looking at an AD carry here and coming in for TT for Sam D. Sam D, I see all the... Oh, wow. I was about to say I expect him to go towards the Jhin. Sam D has been a more kind of utility-focused AD carry and role player. Vayne is not the one that I expected to see Sam D on, but it is a counter pick towards the Kai'Sa. You have a huge amount of damage that you can do when you do it at level 6 and makes it very difficult for the Kai'Sa to return it thanks to that invisibility.
Yeah, I feel like this is definitely something that I feel like the side of TT are kind of saying, look, Sam D, you might be by yourself, they might 3v1 you, but at least you have some element of maybe outplaying a 1v3 with the Vayne, whereas with the Jhin, you don't really have that element. I'm clutching at straws here, Dagda. I don't really have a lot to say about why you would go for the Vayne over something like the Jhin. However, it is locked in. We'll have to wait. It can technically flex up into the top side. Of course, we have seen recently the Shy take that one up to not so great effect, but overall, most likely going to be seeing it in the AD carry role. And that Lucian we talked about earlier in the draft, that's going to be banned away, and the Thresh banned away by LNG. So LNG looking to focus out any kind of safety. I would not be surprised to see them ban away something like the Alistar right now,
I think
just to keep
Galio.
everyone off it. Galio?
Yeah, so Galio's come through as kind of a staple counter pick towards the likes of the Leona and also that Alistar pick, but it works well against the Kai'Sa as well because she's such short range. And two, it just gives you so many globals to play around on the side of TT that it makes it a bit obnoxious. The biggest thing that I'm seeing on TT's side though is that they are going to struggle with wave clear. If they start to fall behind here, Vayne's not going to do a huge amount. You got Twisted Fate who's going to be off in the side lane. So they're kind of relying on Graves or maybe something picked up for Chalitza here to provide that wave clear. Otherwise, they run the risk of, hey, we fall behind in this early stages, we can't get Twisted Fate into a side lane, and we just slowly bleed out because they're able to poke down and utilize their own globals on LNG to suffocate us in this game.
Oh, the Braum locked and loaded. I think it's the first one we've seen all split. I will triple check that one for you very, very shortly. But again, very, very interesting picks coming in here for the side of TT. And the Braum isn't bad, but we definitely have not seen him be meta in a little while now.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not the biggest fan of it in this situation. I already said you could go towards the Galio, like, great into the Leona. Huge, and just solidifies a massively strong bot lane. Plus, you got all those globals. That would have made the most sense to me. Braum, been a little bit more defensive into the Leona and does make it difficult for the Leona to engage. It can work as follow-up as well for the Twisted Fate. if Twisted Fate wants to go towards the bot lane, but I don't like this like lack of agency where you can't really set up as many plays with the Braum. Like right now as TT, you are very heavily reliant on Captain with this Twisted Fate to set up these picks. It's not like you've got, say, like even the Alistair or Galio or something along these lines that can start to use these, or at least get these picks started and then have Captain come in as a secondary setup.
Speaking of setting things in motion, we're actually going to see the set and Renekton for the solo lanes of LNG. Big, beefy front lines to be able to kind of set this Tarzan Taliyah up very, very nicely. And right now, I'm looking at LNG's draft, and I just prefer it. There just seems to be so much more agency on it compared to the side of TT.
I 100% agree. When I look at TT, it's like, right, as a Twisted Fate, I like multiple lanes that I can play around. Right now, I've only really got the bottom lane because all the eggs are in the Sam D basket. And as well, then, when you look over at LNG side, they're kind of prepared for this. You're looking at well, the cleanse was there for light to try and stop any shenanigans at level 6. You've got the set in the mid lane that does very well at shoving in these lanes and just ignoring what the Twisted Fate wants to do. So LNG have a really nice short range composition that is enabled by the pretty short range composition of TT, but also don't give them many options for picks because of how beefy many of their champions are.
Well, we'll have to wait and see how TT kind of go for this. I feel like if it starts to snowball even a little bit in favor of LNG, this is going to be a very, very quick game. But it is a best of 3, of course. This is only game 1 of a potential 3, so we'll have to see how TT and LNG play this one out before we make any kind of assumptions. We can only make educated guesses, Dagda. That's all we can do. But right now, LNG, I feel like this is a great opportunity for them to come out swinging, absolutely hit the ground running, and just say, look, we are a playoffs team. We are a team here to try and upset the upper echelons of the LPL, which right now could be anybody's game with people winning and dropping games left, right, and center.
Yeah, and that's the thing here is that I think LNG have a great composition to make those early game plays happen. Especially when you've got 3 lanes with CC to set up for this Taliyah. So expect Tarzan to pretty much have his pick of the litter as to where he wants to go aggressive and get the ball rolling here for LNG.
We're going to have a quick view of the stadium. Looks fantastic and a great overview of everybody playing in this game. LNG are onto the Rift versus TT as we see how this best of 3 will play out. Will we get the Gyos?
Oh, I don't know.
No Gyos. Okay. No. No Gyos for you today. I'm sorry.
So I want to take this very quickly and kind of look at like how these lane matchups go. Because when you look at both the top lane and the mid lane here, they're really in favor of LNG. And I would love to see Tarzan make his clear work. So he's playing it, putting attention towards this top side of the map. Now, he is going to start in his blue. It looks like, so potential to go for like a top clear into a level 3 gank on this top side, but honestly it looks like we're still going to see the classic Tarzan, which is go for some sort of full top side clear into your red buff on bot side into more of a bot side gank and playing through Light and I1D. And when I'm looking at LNG's only losing lane being this bot side, it can help to get that set up.
Yeah, I completely agree. I am being told as well, by the way, that we did have some Gyos. We just couldn't hear it, so that's unfortunate. But the Gyos were there. They're there in spirit, Dagda, and that's all that matters. But live crowds always fantastic to have. Hopefully, we'll be as live as possible when we get to Shanghai later in the year. But overall, looking at LNG or looking at TT, I feel like it's going to be a little bit difficult for them to get anything going. That being said, if you take a cue to the face from Teen there, like, you're going to get punished because Sam D can 100% stack those concussive blows very quickly.
Yeah, so the way that this bot lane works is that you do get the early priority here as light. Oh, hang on, mid lane.
Mid lane is there, and this is the early priority that we were talking about. Captain has the flash, and they waited for it perfectly. Icon did not use it to engage. He waited until it was done, then uses the face breaker, perfectly set up in the mid lane.
And this is what we talked about, getting this early aggression in towards this top side to go towards Icon, because as a Twisted Fate, you want to be taking that teleport, which means you don't have access to the cleanse. So it's very easy for Icon with this flash, goes chase down Twisted Fate and set up for the Taliyah coming in. Very nice play from LG, and a rinse and repeat they can go for here as well.
Very, very nicely set up. Now, no summoners here for Captain, and like you said, rinse and repeat. Tarzan is here, and I don't think there's much places for Captain to go. He will be slowed down, but with Bless around, it's very difficult for them to make this 100% go in their favor. So they back off, they give the respect needed to Bless and Captain, and they back themselves away.
Needed intervention there from Bless. You had the opportunity as LNG. If you get a secondary kill, Icon pushes in that wave, and you can look to make a play around this pushing bot lane. But Light actually taking a decent chunk of damage here. Not exactly the start that he was hoping for.
Now, big wave coming into him there as well, so you do not want to fight on top of that. Those caster minions will do a hell of a lot of damage to you, especially at this early stage. We can see the Winter's Bite just being peppered onto Light as he tries to last hit this bot lane as best he can. Is going to make it a little bit difficult with TT trying to push for it.
Oh, actually going to grab some Sandy, but they back away. The reason this is an advantageous matchup for Vayne is that Vayne has a very slight range advantage over that Kai'Sa, so she's able to poke her out, make it a little bit easier for, or more difficult for her to try and CS. And then when you get to that level 6, that invisibility is obnoxious as a Kai'Sa, because when you're trying to stack your passive and Vayne is like dodging left, right, and center, you can't get your missiles to land, you're just like, screw this, I'm out, and Vayne then chases you down the lane. It's just not a fun time at all. So definitely Light and Iwanti will be on the back foot for a good portion of this game now that level 3 has been hit by Sandy.
Mikuya just having a decent enough time here. Got himself about a 6 or 7 CS lead. Is going to be increased to about 10 now once these minions go down. Having a decent time is expected as an Ornn going, or a Renekton going into an Ornn matchup. It is a fairly favorable matchup in the early game, but you got to make that Renekton work. We've seen it so many times that later on in this game, if you don't find those flanks, if you don't find those opportunities to make the game, in the early game work for you, you just tend to fall off like an absolute truck off a cliff. It just doesn't really work for you at all. So you need to make this pick work. And for Mikuya, needs to make sure he's not taking too many unfavorable trades either.
At least for Mikuya's favor here, TT's composition is pretty short range. When you got like the Vayne, the Graves, they should be in on top of Mikuya, which makes it a little bit easier for the Renekton to have an impact in these matchups. So he shouldn't fall off as hard as you usually expect a Renekton. The thing here, though, is I do agree with you. I want to see some plays from Tarzan towards Mikuya in the top lane. It's such a simple setup to get those kills in the early stages, and you can see already how well Mikuya is doing it, just punishing Chalitza at every step that he gets. So just make that a little bit easier for yourself.
Yep, did go back, picked himself up a Phage, and running towards the top lane, making sure that the Ornn has no time to reset, or at the bare minimum, if he does reset, will lose a significant chunk of the wave. Is very difficult for Renekton to 1v1 the Ornn, though, so you would expect if they want to try and make anything happen in this top side, they will need Tarzan on the Talia to roam up. Tarzan happily farming in his jungle right now. They've gotten the advantage in the mid lane. Bot lane's not doing too badly for them. Yes, it's a little bit of a 10-15 CS lead for Sam D, but that's nothing to be afraid of. But with all that pressure in the bot side, it is going to be Dragon started up. There is a ward on this, so side of LNG are fully aware. It looks like they might want to try and contest this. The Dragon resets. It gives them a little bit of extra time. This is a 4v4. 4v5 as the TP comes in on the backside. Here we go. Dragon will be taking down a 400 HP. It's just secured by TT. As you can see, Vayne is just completely untouched in this fight, just trying her best to get as much damage off as possible. They overextend and TT punished them. Great, great collapse from TT.
And that was what I was about to say. I didn't want to see LNG taking these early fights because you already have the losing bot side, so you're going to be late to the party. And when you've got that Twisted Fate who can deliver himself straight on top of Light, you just take the AD carry out of the fight straight off the bat. They don't even have the TP either from Mikuya to get down to this bot side fight, so numbers advantage for TT. Everything goes wrong for LNG, and you give that early lead over towards the side of over the side of TT. And you can see it here. Look, I mean, you get the TP from Captain, you get the TP coming in from the Ornn, and Light's like, I'm out! He gets just the single Akatian Rain as pieced out of the fight. Now they're getting chased down across the board, and there's nothing that they can do. They're just able to slowly whittle away at them in the pit and take the fight here for LNG. LNG, like, your focus here is playing around lane states, not playing around these early objectives on the bottom side, and you can look to use the top and mid pressure you have towards an early Rift Herald rather than an early Dragon.
Yeah, definitely maybe, feeling themselves a little bit too much there at that Dragon Pit. And like you said, Light was unable to really kind of do anything. Great, Destiny Gate from Captain completely isolates him away from the fight. Sam D's untouched, so great fight, great early advantage going over to the side of TT. And you want to see now what they can do with it, because it's all well and good. You got the early Drake, you got the early kills and the gold. You need to be able to do something with it, because the early game is not what we've been criticizing TT for. It's the mid to late game shot calling that's really been hampering them.
Now, at least they got some wins on the board that will help ease that curve a little bit. I was actually curious to see what Sam D was going to build this bot lane, though, because obviously when we look at TT's composition, Sam D's the main point to call here. This is what the team is built around. I thought he might have gone for the Immortal Shield Bow, because when you got so many aggressive melee champions that are gunning for you, like the Renekton and Icon here in this set, I thought he might have gone towards a more defensive build, but looks like he is going to go towards the Kraken Slayer, so certainly looking to be that late game carry with the build. But it does mean he has to be very careful, because if he gets caught out here in these team fights, he won't have the safety of this Immortal Shield Bow to keep himself alive.
See how they want to go in transition. Bless has just been farming up as best he can. Tarzan a little bit ahead, but should be equaled out once this camp is taken. And this is the jungle meta right now. It is far easier, far safer just to build up. It is also just a thing, if you could just hard farm, get to level 9, jungle camps actually give you more XP than they would someone who's, say, level 8. So you can then extend that lead in terms of levels far, far more in the jungle. So it's something that I've seen a lot of junglers definitely prioritize, because as soon as you get ahead, it's very difficult for the opposition's jungler to catch up to. So I'm glad to see Bless just keeping himself up on farm, keeping himself up on levels, and really just looking to keep himself on the same line as Tarzan, despite that early kill going over to the side of LNG.
And I think the beauty of having Tarzan on this Talia means he can actually answer for that global pressure from TT. You can use Tarzan as side lane to answer for Captain, and then join in the fights if Captain still tries to make you big plays. You never really end up at a man disadvantage. Now, you'll get first priority, first move advantage as Captain, but certainly you're not going to be able to force these 4v5s in a lot of these situations. So I think you've got like great answers for LNG on the way that TT wants to play this map stage. And as well, then LNG, they just have a really strong front-to-back team fight. Like, you just dive in with Icon, I1, Kuya, you've got Light coming in on top of all that as well. Like, it's really nice, easy to execute comp here for LNG.
Well, speaking of an easy execute comp, this could be Tarzan in a little bit of trouble. That's a red card locked in, though, for Captain, who goes golden with 1 HP, and Icon will clean him up. Definitely went far too deep there as LNG punish an overambitious TT.
And this is what I was talking about with taking that Braum pick, is that, like, if you don't get that CC as Captain, like, red card missed, whatever, you don't have any more left in tank. You've got to try to follow up with the ultimate or trying to get these concussive stacks, but when you're able to get out so quickly as like the likes of Light, it's very difficult to do so.
Oh, Sam D in a 1v2. This is why you picked the Vayne, but unfortunately for him... Oh, never mind! He trades it 1 for 1, and that is why he picked the Vayne over the Jhin. It gives him the opportunity to outplay.
And that's the thing as well, you can see there, that invisibility just completely destroyed Light. Not able to get that final auto to stack the passive, and you're able to get Sam D with the tumble to finish off the kill. So this is why it's so difficult as Light in this matchup, and you need that help from Tarzan. Unfortunately though, Tarzan hasn't quite been able to get down there as often as you would like, and it's kind of been a little bit of a slower pace game from Tarzan. So it means you've got Sam D, who's now got that Kraken Slayer ahead of Light, and he's in a fantastic spot now for the rest of this game.
Great turnaround, I suppose, from Sam D. And just so you're aware, ladies and gentlemen, we are aware of Dagda's microphone. We are working tirelessly behind the scenes to try and figure it out, so please do bear with us. It is just the trials and tribulations of running with a remote broadcast, but again, we are still very much aware of it. And unfortunately, Dagda, you're now Dagatron, and that's just who you have to be now. Are you a Decepticon or are you an Autobot? That's what I want to know. Which one?
I'm not actually sure, to be honest. Like, I'm kind of filling out both sides, seeing how it's going. One has offered me milk and cookies, the other has offered me beer, and the beer is winning out so far, but we'll see how the rest goes. Maybe there's a whiskey that gets brought into the mix that just changes everything. I'm holding my cards and waiting to see how it goes.
Yeah, we're waiting to see what both sides offer, as we see now. A trade of objectives. Dragonman over to TT, while the Rift Arrow goes over to the side of LNG, but a bot in the bot side. Glacial Fisher used A cleanse and a flash from Light does mean he's able to keep himself safe, but this is good from TT, building up a bit of momentum, keeping this game very, very close, keeping the side of LNG very, very honest.
Yeah, and again, it's nice to see TT try to make these plays happen, but this is why I wanted to see a more aggressive support, especially something that can set up for Captain. Now, Icon doing a great job in this big lane of holding Captain in place, making it difficult to join these spots, but certainly would make plays like this easy.
Yeah, and you can just jump straight on top of Iwandi, who has no flash, nowhere to go, and that is going to be a huge amount of money given over to the side of the bot lane, and jungler of TT is going to be answered in top side by Tarzan, who does use that Rift Herald charge to get the last of those plates up there. Bless needs to be a little bit careful. That is still a set who is very, very powerful. However, for TT, this is great for them. They're keeping the gold even. They're able to kind of get this SAMD Vayne going as best they can, and this is exactly what we wanted to see them do, because like we said, if this Vayne can snowball and start to 1v1 in anyone in terms of a side lane, that becomes very dangerous for the side of LNG.
I agree. However, we're going to need to see what TT can now do towards this third dragon, because this is where we're going to start to see LNG really hitting hard. I mean, you're going to have that Leandri's Anguish completed, but look like LNG want to make a play beforehand.
Yeah, SAMD has got flash, but no mana, just uses the flash to get himself away, so they gain a summoner, but there's no real objective now for the side of LNG to turn to, and this is kind of what we're seeing. We're seeing LNG just push forward with, nothing really to gain if they don't get the kill. It's either get the kill and yes, we won, or we get a summoner and we don't really gain anything else, and it's just a little bit unfortunate from them.
But this is the thing, like, take this problem that they're seeing in the bot lane and then add that to your team fight, because this is where you're going to have Mikuya, who can slice and dice his way on towards SAMD. You're going to have Icon, who's looking to showstopper into the face breaker onto him. Even these little seismic shoves come through from Tarzan. There's so much you have to watch out for SAMD in these fights, and if you've already now burnt the flash ahead of that dragon in 2 minutes, it's going to become very, and the cleanse as well, although it looks like cleanse will be back up, it becomes very difficult for SAMD to operate in and around these group team fights. So definitely TT are going to have to work cut out to try and keep this Vayne safe.
Have a quick look at the items down the board. You can see first items being picked up for pretty much everybody on the side of LNG, apart from Light. You've got the Gore Drinker, the Leandri's Anguish, the Sunfire Aegis, and now the Gale Force has just been picked up there by the Kaisers. So definitely feeling a little bit more powerful, a little bit more safe. Where on the other side, we actually see the Kraken Slayer for the Vayne on SAMD. Kraken Slayer Vayne, definitely something that will 100% help her out, just being able to shred through these health bars, as well as the Gale Force for the Graves. So in terms of upfront damage, TT have it at the moment.
I like this adaptation from Tarzan as well. Oftentimes when you're talking about Talia, you'll see the likes of the Luden's Tempest coming in first. Gives you like the mythic passive with a lot of armor or magic pen, which is nice for the squishies. But when you're looking at Tarzan, his job 9 times out of 10 is going to be hitting onto Chalitza and this beefy front line. So going towards that Leandri's Anguish instead, getting that ability to shred through the tanks a little bit easier, is definitely exactly what this Talia wants to be doing. And again, getting a little bit more ability haste off that mythic passive is never a bad thing. So overall, this is a nice call from Tarzan, and kind of understanding what his job is essentially going to be coming into these team fights.
We could see a team fight very, very soon. The way the map is set out, you can see gold is pretty much dead even. There's nothing really a difference between either side. There is a dragon spawning in just under a minute, and both sides have picked up some pretty decent power spikes. Now, where they start off or how they, establish physical control is going to be very, very important, because I feel like whoever's there first should be able to control and dictate where this fight is fought.
Yeah, and I like that LNG have gone for this kind of earlier recall to get in position here, because as TT, it becomes a little bit difficult for you to take back control of this area. Now, they can use the Destiny if they want to try and just spot exactly where LNG are, but you don't want to be using that to just get control of River. You want to be using that to actually pick off the fights and make them uncomfortable on LNG's side.
Well, 16 seconds. Mikuya has roamed down. You can see Chalitza as well. Team just get flicked back a little bit. Takes a little bit of punishment, but overall should still be relatively safe. Ultimates are available. Flash for Light, not quite there yet, so keep an eye on that. Iwandi also missing it, but the Ornhorn comes out, as is the Destiny Gate. They're trying to see if they can isolate a target. Iwandi looks like he's going to be the one. Chalitza just hangs up in the Canthian Rain. Icon needs to be a little bit careful. They jump straight down on top of the Vayne, and that is your damage source gone. They are going to use the Talia wall to try and separate everybody, and they jump straight in. There's the shotgun. They're going to use Light to try and chase down Bless, but overall, LNG find the trigger and they pull it.
Yeah, hate to say I told you so, but that was exactly what I expected coming into this, where you just jump on towards Sam D, knock him down, and then you've got nothing left in the tank here for this TT side. And I mean, easy pickup from LNG. They make this composition look very easy.
Yeah, it just felt, like I said, like the first team they're kind of able to get positioning, the first team that's able to build the tempo around that. You can see the vision there on the mini-map. It's just perfectly set up for the side of LNG. TT really couldn't find an angle to catch someone off guard with a gold card, to get Jalitza in without funneling everyone in through a Talia and a Kai'Sa. So it just became a very, very messy kind of setup that... honestly, I don't even think it was a fight. It was more just a straight-up retreat that they got someone caught in. And overall, LNG, they will stop the Dragon stackings. They will pick up a couple of kills. Still a very even game, still very even goal, but that's, you know, small positives for the side of LNG.
And you can see it here. I mean, what do you do? Well, not the best of pathing from Sam D, to be perfectly honest. Like, they needed to retreat and regroup on the far side of this wall. But he tries to sneak past, gets caught out, and there's very little that you can then do as TT. You can see them running for the hills, but I don't know. This is kind of where I, again, point out towards TT's decision-making. Like, they needed to start to either have captain pressure a little bit more to create further pressure so they could work around it, or they needed to come in with this very strong front to back. But top side?
Whoa, here we go. Iwandi gonna have to use the solar flare to keep everyone alive, but this is the big fight. As you can see, Sam D just pushing in, gets a double kill, might keep chasing, maybe looking for a triple kill for Sam D on the Vayne. But look at the backside, this Renekton is massive. He is a huge alligator croc trying to just shred down these health bars. They're trying to maybe turn this one back, but there is the showstopper. Sam D is dead. It's a 3-for-3 overall. LNG saved the play, but TT, they tried to make it happen.
I don't even know if it's going to be 3-for-3. They're on the hunt. The croc smells blood.
Oh, there it is. It's going to eventually be 2 kills to Makuya. Actually, 3 kills to him. So this Crocodile absolutely massive on the backside. And that is just a huge, huge teamfight win for LNG. It looked like TT had it.
It did. It would look so close. But again, we talk about how quickly LNG can react to these plays. You get the teleport coming in, but it's on pretty much 4 members of LNG already grouped up, and when Sam D is the main source of damage, he's flashing up the wall here to deal with Tarzan, who deals with Makuya. This is a croc with a gore drinker. No matter how much damage you do, he's going to heal it all back up because you don't have the consistent damage to take him down with the rest of TT here. And when Icon shows up, pick him up, put them down in their place, and grabbing that kill on towards the Vayne.
Honestly, you saw, I think it was Makuya going from like 1/3 HP right back up to full HP just with 1 Q, like the Call to Meek. It was absolutely insane, just the pure amount of healing he's able to get with that Gore Drinker. Now with the Sterex Gauge, he's going to be so difficult just to try and burn through. I feel like if the side of TT want to kill him, they, like you said, they have to get Sam D putting down these, you know, silver bolts on top of him, shredding his health bar before he can sustain it back up.
And you gotta find a different warpath in towards here as TT. Now, as we already pointed out, this is difficult to operate as TT thanks to Tarzan going towards this Talia pick. And honestly, I would have preferred, if you're gonna go with this style as TT, that you actually try and go towards like an Orianna or a Syndra in the mid lane here for Captain to try and provide some sort of protection for Sam D. But unfortunately, when you've got the Twist of Fate, he's not offering a huge amount in these fights, and you can see that LNG are playing these map movements so grouped up that you're not really having the opportunity as TT to make the picks that you want, or even take down any of the beefy members of LNG.
Being said, Sam D is by far and away the richest person in this game. Got himself 2 items, has the Phantom Dancer alongside the Kraken Slayer. Looks like he's going towards that Guinzoo's as well. Overall, I still think it's still very, very winnable for TT. They just need to shore up a couple of those small little team fights. And for LNG, this isn't honestly what we expected them. We expected this to be a very, very easy, you know, 2-0. I even said it to you, you know, before the broadcast. Like, I would not be surprised if this was a 50-minute total game time between 2 games for a 2-0 for LNG. And TT, they're giving it, you know, a fair shot. But like you said, their biggest criticism is coming around these mid-game shot calls, is around these mid-game team fights, and that's where the biggest test is going to be for them.
Yeah, and now that we've hit kind of those mid-game team fights, I actually want to see them avoid this dragon. I think your best bet here as TT is to try and create pressure on and create long side lanes for yourself. So when you get to these later dragons, you're not in as big of a, or at least you can create more pressure that TT can use. But looks like they may be looking to force this anyway. Although, as I say that, no, they're just going to shove mid. So this is what I wanted to see. TT, get these towers, create long lanes that you can then use this split push and find more opportunities for the pick. So, unfortunately though, with LNG kind of hovering around this mid, they won't be able to get that. But at least Captain now has gotten 2 turrets on this top side.
Yeah, and this is a much better decision. You realize you're not really in position to fight for that dragon. You're probably not as strong in a team fight as you want to be, considering Makuya is just so damn big on this crocodile. So, as you say, create long lanes, get those 2 towers up in top side, decent amount of farm, and also damage onto that turret in the mid lane. So, overall, still positives. And again, it's not even a 1,000 gold lead. This is such a close game. It could go either way, depending on how the fights go.
Yeah, it very much comes down to execution here. Like, if as TT you can find these wandering picks onto Tarzan or onto Light and set yourself up for a fight, you're in a much better spot. However, if you end up in a situation where you haven't actually been able to create much pressure, you haven't drawn LNG into a side lane, it becomes a lot more difficult to make that happen. So I want to see now Captain get out of this lane, head down towards bot side, because the likes of Baron being up means you need to create some pressure on this bottom side of the map, try and create a secondary long lane for themselves, and then force LNG into uncomfortable situations.
Do apologize. I said the Gwynzo's Rage blade earlier. It's actually the Blade of the Ruined King he's going to go for. So that's a 3-item vein. The health bars are not going to be a problem right now. It's going to be very difficult for the side of LNG to take a sustained fight if this vein is able to stay alive. All summoners available pretty much across the board, actually exactly across the board. Everyone has everything. We might see, probably won't even see a fight for the 3.5 minutes, but overall, everyone should feel pretty safe. And for Sam D, I don't want to say everything's in your hands right now, but it feels like it's to protect the Sam D composition coming out from TT if they want to try and win it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we highlighted here, is that it's a protect the Sam D composition. And honestly, why I thought he was going towards that Gwynzo's Rage Blade. I feel like as Sam D here, you just all in on the damage, and you're going to use like Captain, Teen, Chalitza to keep yourself safe. So the Blade of the Ruined King is nice because obviously it gives a little bit of the percentage max health damage, you get some of the slows, you get some lifesteal and that, but I think the Gwynzo's Rage Blade would have done more here just because you can consistently get those silver bulb procs off and do much more of that true damage off of just your passive, and the Kraken Slayer as well. That's going to be 3 hit control. Mid lane, they try to
see now. Oh, they have got it. Solar Flare goes down, and they use the showstopper. The turret is still alive. Now it eventually goes down, but Sam D, can he stay alive? Yes, he can. They don't quite get enough damage onto anyone on the TT. They get the turret. They invest a hell of a lot into it. You can see Icon using both summoners, and overall, it ends up just being a tower with no kills.
Again, though, you can see the Captain struggling to find these entrances that he wants into fights. He actually ends up destinying in behind the entire team, and then they operate as this front-to-back style of team fight. And it gives the opportunity for LNG to find the fights they want. Like if Chalitza is sitting in the front line, Icon can showstopper remain on the back line. You got the flashes and stuff to try and get on towards Sam D. You can see how difficult it is for him to survive. That was with flash and cleanse burn. He won't have that available again now coming up towards this next dragon fight. And that seems to be the protocol here for LNG. Consistently get rid of these summoner spells before dragon fights happen for TT.
Big thing is, yes, Sam D did survive, but he had to use everything to try and get out of that. No cleanse, no flash, 1.5 minutes till dragon. Might have the cleanse up if they're able to delay it a little bit, but overall still won't have the flash. Whereas you look on Light, who is still stacking up towards his 3rd item, he's got his cleanse and his flash available. So in terms of the damage that will be able to come down, or the safety you have from your damage carries, it's going to be a lot more in favor of LNG than it is TT.
Yeah, it's not looking good for TT, and I know we're kind of like, oh yeah, well, they're only 2,000 gold behind, it's not that bad. It's the way that these team fights are operating, and again, because they've had to have Captain come and Destiny in towards that last team fight, well, then it makes it very difficult now for him to have control of the map for this next dragon. I mean, what lanes are you really worried about here? Is LNG being shoved in or any towers being taken? Not. Cool, let's just go. We'll set up ready for this dragon now. We're the composition that can force ourselves in towards river as well. We don't really have to worry if TT are in the area. And now, with 30 seconds towards dragon, they're in control.
They are in control. Honestly, if I think I'm TT here, you just don't fight this right now. Yes, you got the QSS onto the Vayne, but you need that flash. You need that extra safety, in my opinion. And right now, it doesn't feel like they can guarantee SamD's safety. Yes, Icon doesn't have his flash or his ghost. It doesn't matter because one bit of mispositioning will just end this entire team fight if SamD is caught out. They need him alive for that constant DPS. And it's on to the Teen and Chalitza to make sure that he does not die. But it is going to be a LNG kind of backup right now. They've got the Laves pushing in bot lane and top. Actually, no, I lied. TT haven't got that one. It's actually pretty even in fairness, but overall it should be pushing back in favor of TT. The Destiny Gate has been used. They get the knock up on the Captain, and Captain gets jumped on. He has to go golden straight away. TP going to be brought in. Captain is dead. The Captain is no longer with his team. Icon jumped on, but he had the stopwatch. They have SamD, but he's able to kite this one back. This could be very, very dangerous for the side of TT if they can't keep SamD alive. He's trying his very best, but Light finds himself onto the back line. They get 3 kills, they get 4, and they're going to be able to finish off the Ornn. It's going to be a clean 8 for LNG, and they have the run of the map to take what they want.
Beautiful from LNG. That teleport from Mikuya perfectly positioned to separate TT, stop SamD from going on the aggression, and LNG can turn it around. Now it's split the map for LNG. They'll have 2 members go towards Dragon to pick themselves up the 3rd, as the other 3 will take down this Baron. LNG firmly in control of this game. Yeah, I was wondering. I could see him talking, but I wasn't sure if he'd muted himself.
I am
or if it was just my connection.
I had to sneeze and cough. Thank you, Charlian. I had muted my mic and forgot to unmute it. I had a whole speech prepared about how SamD, without his splash, couldn't create a distance. But it does not matter. The result is
the American flag flutter down behind you and start to blow. Your wind was blustering in the air. It looked beautiful, to be honest. And I'm pretty sure I saw, like... what's the Neil Armstrong walk behind you at 1 second to give a salute? I wasn't certain, but it did look beautiful.
And this is again, we talked about how TT struggle with this mid game and late game shot calling, is that Captain just gets caught straight up.
Yeah, and this is again Captain trying to see if he can set up these plays, get the pick set up, and then have TT win it out. But beautiful again, Mikuya gets into perfect position thanks to that teleport in. Already pressure SamD back, and again. Like, when these summoner spells are down for SamD, it's so difficult to approach these fights. A flash coming through from either Icon, Mikuya, Iwandi just ruins your whole day because of the CC that it brings along with it.
And now, looking at the map state, 4.5 items. I count boots as half items on this Renekton. 5, 0, and 2 is just a monster. You look at Talia, huge amount of damage, as well as just kind of, healing reduction as well with the Morellonomicon. And the great thing is nowadays, or previously, it used to be kind of on the AD carry to build a... Executioner's Calling to try and get that healing cut, but you don't need that right now, which just opens up so much extra damage. Icon just trying to see if he can find everybody, finds everybody, and promptly sees himself out stage left, or stage right, excuse me.
I think the most interesting build here is actually looking at SamD picking up that extra QSS. He's gone so deep into... Oh, hang on.
Should be alright.
They're going to back
lane, can't really jump onto the tank yet.
I mean,
but yeah,
you're
as
so worried. You're so worried as SamD of getting CC'd down. You're like, I need cleanse, I need QSS, I need probably a Mikhail's picked up by Teen, maybe someone else is just like, please, for the love of God, stop me from getting CC'd. And it's very, very difficult to try and deal with. And even if you don't get CC down, there's so much goddamn passive damage, AoE damage on LNG between like showstoppers, face breakers, haymakers, call the meeks, everything. It's like you're trying to dodge away from so much stuff as SamD. It's so difficult to do.
And it's not all doom and gloom. Yes, it's a 6,000 or 6,500 gold lead for LNG, but for TT, they still have the Vayne. The power that she can get in these team fights, if kept safe, and that's a big ol' if. That is just absolutely insane. If they can get them to bring down Makuya, if Icon doesn't find his priority target and Captain's able to get 1 or 2 gold cards, they could turn the fight completely around. We are getting to the point where gold leads don't really matter because everyone's at 4, 4.5, 5 items overall, and that's just where this game can really just become down to how good mechanically are you in these team fights. Under 2 minutes till the next dragon, that's going to be sold potentially for LNG, who've picked up 3 Ocean Drakes off the trot. They are just looking absolutely insane, and that's the problem as well for TT. You can't just go for poke and then come back because they'll just heal it up passively.
It's strange to see TT going back to the first point you made, that they're all leaning on Sam D being the carry, because honestly they didn't really give Captain a chance in their first game. Like, Captain had a 0.6 KDA from the first series, but he'd done 28% of the team's damage. Like, this guy actually was trying his best to carry, but they didn't really play towards him, and now they're opting to go towards Sam D once again. And the problem for Sam D is that, hey, he's not a carry. Like, he's always been a role player. Even when he was on V5, he was looking to be much more around the, oh, I'll play Jhin, I'll just be a passive support, and I'll let like Weiwei and Mo be the real carry. So I don't understand why they're opting to play so heavily around Sam D on this team when you've got such a upstart talent coming in and Captain, and you're just sticking them and relegating them to either not getting any sort of support tools or onto TF duty.
Well, with Dragon spawning in 30 seconds, you feel that's going to be the final fight for this game. Either LNG will be able to completely clean up house and take the win, or TT will find themselves a lifeline and put themselves onto Soul Point. There is a ward spotting out this little move you're kind of go for here, TT, and they need to be so careful, because if they get caught, they are in a huge world of hurt as the rest of the team just kind of roll in. That ward doing, in the pixel brush, just doing absolute huge work for the side of LNG, making sure that they do not have to face check anything.
The trap's closing though. Look at Makuya.
Makuya! He's on the back side of this. They don't know exactly where he is. They know he's around, but not exactly where. See Captain just trying to see if they can find him. Now they know. Now they know the flank is there. They have potential to be able to try and stop this one out. Ooh, big chunk there using the rapid fire cannon, but jumps straight in on top of Captain Teen as well. Sam D trying to get himself into this fight, but you can see he's just not auto-attacking. Now he finally gets in. There is the stairs gauge pop. Graves goes down. That's Light picking up the first kill of this fight. Talia picks up the second. Sam D just trying to kite away. Still has all summoners there. There's the Kaizen to the backside, and this is why this pick is so damn powerful. Finds herself 3 kills, triple for Light, and Captain is all in mid lane alone without a prayer. He's going to be chased down by Makuya. You can only imagine it has to use the exhaust, using several gold cards to try and keep himself alive, but he is running out of mana fast. And while that's all happening, look at the mini-map. The bot lane is being pushed in hard by TT. Or sorry, by LNG, excuse me.
It's Sam done, Sam dusted, and Sam doomed on the side of TT, because they have got nothing left here. This Vayne could not get rolling. LNG shut them down, and they will pick up game 1.
Game 1 is going to go over in favor of LNG. Took them a hell of a lot longer than they probably wanted it to, but a win is a win, and LNG take the first advantage in this best of 3.
And so well played by LNG. The draft set up from them perfectly executed against what TT wanted to go for, and I felt like TT had opted to go towards this Vayne simply for the lane priority that it offered and kind of having that strong bot side of the map, but they never got to play